My name is. I'm going to be talking to you about levels G and H, the online class and the self-paced. I am one of the teachers for the level G and H classes. I think I've been doing it for about 3 or 4 years at this point. So I feel rather confident talking to you about these levels. I'm also in the process of recording the self-paced for level H. So I'm going to do my best to give you as much information as I can in this, short period of time, and then I will field questions at the end. All right, so first things first, level G and H are pre-algebra, okay? You're constantly seeing on the chats, well, what do I have to do for pre-algebra? Does this cover pre-algebra? What's in G and H? Everything you need for pre-algebra and more. So each level takes about 1 school year. So you'll do level G, and then you'll do level H, and you'll have everything your child possibly needs for pre-algebra. They're able to go into any algebra program they would like to at that point. Who's ready for level G? Any student that has completed level F with Right Start is absolutely ready for level G. If you're coming from another program, maybe you pulled your kids from public school or somewhere else, you're just not sure, take our online placement test, and that will gauge where they're at. We do have students that have never used Right Start before that come in for levels G and H. Is there a little bit of a learning curve? Sure. But usually those students are okay, especially our level G, because the beginning of it, and I'm going to get into this some further slides, the beginning of it is review. We're teaching them how to teach themselves. You're not the teacher anymore. Your student is their own teacher. You're there to help them and support them, but they are their teacher. And I'll get more into that in a minute. So online placement test. So on our website, you can come right where it says placement test. And that's going to give you 2 options for a placement test. You can take one that's yes or no's, or there's a more comprehensive one that you can take, and that will let you know any level that your child is ready for. Another wonderful resource that we have is the resource tab, and this is going to also tell you can take the placement test here, but it also has sample lessons, which I think is really helpful just to get you an idea of what's in there. You can see the scope and sequence and the table of contents for all of our levels there. All right, and teaching support has lots of other valuable things like corrections that we've made and things like that. Okay, so where do you start? The first thing that you're going to have your student do when they get level G is read the pages with the little Roman numerals. Read those introductory pages before starting. That teaches them how to be their own teacher. Okay, it tells them you're going to read the lesson more than once. You need to make sure that you're doing vocabulary, things like that. It just teaches them how to be on their own, okay? One thing I've noticed in the online classes is a lot of times when kids are struggling, it's because they haven't read the lesson. Even my own kids have done it. They're like, all right, I gotta get the worksheets done. And they just jump right in, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't read the lesson today, right? Or maybe I only read it once. We do recommend they read it about 3 times. Once you're just kind of like reading it, second time you're looking for things, and the third time you're kind of skimming it. You can read it fully all 3 times, but 3 times is the actual recommendation. Okay, again, they're learning to teach themselves and practice reading material. Reading, math text is obviously a lot different than reading your favorite, Percy Jackson or something like that. And then we're just working on them building confidence. That first beginning part of G is really just kind of teaching them how to take care of themselves, helping them grow, helping them move. And then it starts to get really cool, really challenging. They're still going to be challenged, but it ramps up as you go. But we're not just saying, here, you're the teacher, figure it out. Okay, we're working with them to get them to a place where they can be successful. I'm a scout leader, and we always say, it's scout led, not scout abandoned. Same thing with this, right? It's student led, it's not student abandoned. You can still help them, you can support them in whatever ways they need. All right. So as I already said, not reading a lesson is a roadblock. If they're having struggles, I would say, hey, have you read the lesson? Like, have you really sat down, or maybe sit down and read it with them? None of the lessons are very, very long, usually 2 pages max. Sometimes they're just 1 page. And even sometimes it'll break it down into like these problems or those problems, or stop, do the lesson, and then it'll say like continue reading the lesson. Let them struggle. It's okay for them to feel frustrated. Oftentimes when they're feeling a little bit frustrated, and then they get it, it just means so much more than if you just get them there. So let them struggle a little bit, and then know how to get support. So ways you can get support, You can email us, and I'm gonna have this on the last slide, but email us at info@rightstartmath.com. And you can also call our customer service, and you'll get one of us to talk to. A lot of times, so I do those phones as well on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I'll have students, some repeat students too, that will call and say, "Hey, Miss Allison, I'm on this lesson. Can you help me?" And we'll sit there and we'll go through the whole lesson. We'll go through part of the lesson. I had a young lady that I talked to last week and this week on the same lesson. She's like, I just need to do it again. And then she read it out loud. She goes, "Oh, once I said it out loud to you, I get it." So we're here to support you. We're not bending these kids, right? We're here. You're available to support. If you don't get it, rely on us. That's what we're doing here. So we're giving them a road to independence. And I know I keep driving this point home, but I feel it's really important. Remind them that they are their own teacher. And then, like I said, you can call or email our customer service team. It's okay for them to struggle, and that'll help them better appreciate the concepts. Okay, so another major roadblock is not playing the math card games. In levels G and H, they're actually part of the assignment. So math card games are assigned with every single one because a lot of the work they're doing is on the calculator. They're doing a lot of discovery through geometric approach, okay? So we want to make sure they still have the fact fluency. Okay, if we just don't do any of it, if we're not practicing it, we might lose a little bit. So every lesson has a game or two suggested, or not suggested, assigned. The suggestion is which one are you going to pick. And so that's something that the students really should do because it's going to help with that fluency. So enjoying the scenery, watch their confidence grow as they take ownership of their learning. We had a student the other day, we were doing something in H where we had to find, I think it was the third side or something. And I was like, "Oh, easy, I'm just gonna do Pythagorean's theorem." And she's like, "Oh, Miss Allison, I use tangent, I use trigonometry." It's like, I haven't had people do this before. But you're absolutely right. That's another way to do it. As a seventh grader, just be like, "Oh, I use trig." That's how I did it. And she got the right answer and she did it perfect. She had it exactly right. And so her comment on the chat was like, "Right Start has helped me so much. I have learned so much from using Right Start." So that's that confidence. This is a student I've had for 2 years in G and H, and just really like seeing them grow and like, "Hey, I figured it out. I didn't do it the way that you did it, or really the rest of the class. I did it using trigonometry because I have that tool, and it's been built up, and I feel confident and comfortable using it." Card games, like I said, we have an option for you. I know sometimes reading the card game directions can be overwhelming and stressful or frustrating. So now we do offer a subscription service to math card games, and it has over 180 of the games on there. It walks you through it, and then it helps them be successful. A lot of the games you can modify to solitaire if you had to. Like if you're like, "Hey, I don't have the time right now to do it," your student can still play a solitaire version of it. So that's an option. Also, you can call us and say, "Hey, I don't get how to play this game." You can Google on you can search on our website. There's lots of blog posts. So you don't have to get the subscription. It's just another support system. It's just another layer of help. My family is huge into board gaming. I don't even read the directions to games. I just find a YouTube video on it. My husband gets the rule books and I watch the YouTube video. That's just how it is for some people. So this isn't, a Right Start only problem. Sometimes reading directions to a game is challenging, but one thing that does help is just stopping at the setup, completely having it set up, and then slowly going through the process. And it's okay if you don't play it exactly how it's written. Like house rules are okay as long as we're still practicing the math facts. Okay. So level H is your second level here. It is also completed in 1 year. Oops, sorry, I made a mistake there. It should say ready for level H, not ready for level D. But if they have completed level G, and if you do the online placement test, if you're coming from somewhere else. So what exactly is included in level H? Okay, people are always like, "Oh, it's geometry. Can I count this as high school geometry?" No, but again, you are your own homeschooler, so you really could probably do what you want. But no, because we don't have full formal proofs. But some of the things we're going over in H, and these are just some that I picked out: volume, surface area, trigonometry. I already told you about that. Absolute value, ratios, statistics, coordinate systems. There's so much in here. And for me, it's been really neat because my kids have gone all the way through. They're now doing high school math. One's in algebra and one's in geometry, and they'll get to lessons and they'll be like, "Oh, we already did this in Right Start," and they're able to just like recall that lesson. And where I'm doing it hand in hand by teaching G and H, I look at their stuff. I'm like, "Oh, this is lesson, whatever. We did this. If you need more support, go look in the Right Start books." And sometimes they do that. So it is absolutely getting them set up for your high school maths that are coming. All right. There we go. And again, the same roadblock, I'm going to say it again, is not playing the games. Play the games just to make sure you're getting that fluency. Make sure, they're keeping up with material. There's sometimes, kids are tempted to use the solutions before they had it figured out or they've asked help. And that can also be a little bit of a roadblock because it all builds. So if I'm not getting one concept and I kind of like make my way through it, and then further down the road, it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to spiral. So just playing the games, knowing how to get support. One thing we really push in our online classes is we're like, if you're going to ask a question for support, please don't say I don't get it. Have a specific question. I don't understand. Why I can't use Pythagorean theorem when it's not a right triangle or something. Like something very specific, and then we're able to answer that feedback and help you more with more information. So again, those online classes I've talked about, they run from Labor Day to Memorial Day. Your student is still the teacher. We just help support and we offer deeper understanding, as well as some of the other students. Like I said, we had that one student who said, "Oh, I did it with trigonometry, right?" And then she showed it and everyone's like, "Oh, that's cool. I should, I could have done it that way." So how those live classes run, because a lot of times people aren't really sure what that means, especially if I'm saying your student is the teacher. Well, what am I paying for? What am I doing? So your student is still going to get the assignment. They're going to complete it on their own. They send it into us, and we just kind of glance over it. We don't do a full, like, in-depth grading of it because you're the teacher, like you're the administrator with the grades, right? But we look and I say, "Oh, look, number 4, a lot of people kind of had a little trouble on this. I'm going to make a note on my stuff to talk about this a lot more." But we do go over every single worksheet together, and call on different students, "Hey, Marin, what did you do? What did you do for number 5? Oh, this is what I did." And sometimes we'll write in different colors to show the different ways that you did it. We have a PowerPoint where we go over all the vocabulary and some of the new concepts in detail. So that's one of the things your online class offers, and it just has the other students, like I said, being like, "Hey, I've done it differently," or just different viewpoints, which is always nice. The self-paced classes. So we offer these for G and H. The students are still their own teacher. The same thing though, they're going to complete the assignment and then they'll watch the video that pertains to those assignments. It gives you a little bit more schedule freedom. You're not locked into, "Hey, Tuesday, Thursday, I have a 7:30 a.m. class. I have to be there." Instead, maybe you get a bunch of stuff so you don't have to watch the videos, but you get lesson to lesson 30 and you're really struggling, right? You have the option to go and pull up that video, and it gives them the ability to work at their own pace, instead of having to keep up with the pace that the class sets. There was another thing I was going to say about the class. I might think of it. Okay. Oh, yes, I know what I was gonna say. So also when we do the classes, we record every single class. So say you do have somewhere to be, or you're sick, or whatever, or dad's going away for a week, and hey, we're gonna go homeschool on the road with dad or mom or whatever. You have the ability to pull up that video and watch it if you've missed class. So that's an option as well. So what comes next? This is something we get asked all the time. What do you do after Right Start, right? Algebra is the answer. If you finished G and H, you can absolutely go to any algebra program. The older students may skip H in some circumstances. Say you have a kiddo that's maybe starting G in 9th grade or something, or you're trying to catch up because you did some other things or life happened, right? Then you could skip G. You're gonna not G. You can skip H. You're gonna miss some meat and some good details, but they would be okay. I'm not advocating skip H in a normal circumstance. I'm saying if they're older and you're trying to really find a way to catch up, yes, you could do it. But G and H, there's so much value in both of them. If you can get it done, get it done. But the ones that the algebra programs we recommend are Art of Problem Solving. It's geared toward your strong or gifted math student who's planning to maybe go into engineering or sciences or just needs a more intense high school curriculum. Anybody can do it, but that's kind of the track that it's geared towards. Mr. D's Math offers algebra, geometry, pre-calculus, trigonometry, calculus. They have options there with live classes and self-paced video classes. They also, which I think is kind of cool, is they have tutoring days available and say, hey, we have office hours this day, and they'll email the child and the parent to let them know when they are. And email help is also available there. Forrester, it's a little bit more challenging, I'd say, and it's if you want to gain a very strong background in math, it's more of your traditional, textbook type thing. Jacobs is also a textbook style curriculum, has short lessons and choices of problems to solve. Video text, it's video based high school algebra and high school geometry course with short lessons and daily problems to solve. So that's what I have. Again, this is how you can contact us for help if you ever need it. And it's also on the back of our books. So if you don't have it, it's right here on the back of our books. It's also in the front of our books. But yeah, that's what we have available for you for resources for support. It's one of the things besides going to teaching support and stuff like that. So that is what I have prepared on my slideshow. I am open to any and all questions.
So I actually have a question. Oftentimes I have things to say, but this time I have parents who ask me about G&H. I tutor, so I'm interacting with a lot of parents who are using Right Start, and I have parents ask me about G&H. They hear that kids go straight from F into algebra, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, because what I often say to them is, yes, a kid can go straight from F into algebra. That's possible, but what they get in G&H is like it cements what they already knew. It like takes that knowledge that they kind of had a surface knowledge on and just cements it and makes it solid. Is that accurate, or is there more there than that?
No, I mean, I think that's a good soundbite. That's very good. Just yes, absolutely. And the way I think of it too is even when I was talking about with my kids being in their high school levels, is with Right Start, we introduce you even to multiplication in A, right? But the multiplication we're doing A is not the same as what we're doing in C and D, right? That's
Right.
really cementing it and getting it forward. So have they been exposed to a lot of these concepts? Sure, right? But when you're doing it in G, it's just that much more, G and H. And so I wouldn't skip it. I know
No.
I've seen that on some of the chats. People are like, oh yeah. I think only in a real rare situation where your kiddo's like, hey, you know what? My kid's already in 10th grade. They're looking to go to college. I got to get them into algebra at some point, right? But the caveat being there's going to be some gaps there, right? You're definitely going to be missing stuff. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
We also have another question from Jeanette. Can you compare and contrast G and H?
Ooh, can I compare and contrast G and H? How would I compare and contrast? So I would say G is working on some of that independence, right? Getting them to learn how to teach themselves. It has more drawing than H does. H is going to hit some of your harder concepts like your trigonometry and stuff like that. You're going to hit just some different topics. That's not a great answer, but there is a great video on Rainbow Resources that Kathleen made. That's what I actually looked at when I was trying to decide what I was going to do for my own kiddos, that I could refer you to. But yeah, I don't know, Maren, do you have a better answer than that?
I was just saying that the level G is going to start giving you some of your more basic pre-algebra concepts, and H is just going to it's just going to continue to develop those and build on everything, where it's going to get them a little bit more concrete practice with some of the more complex things that they're going to be doing, like more of the trig functions, things like that, it's going to better prepare them for some of those higher level maths that they'll be jumping into in high school.
Yeah, and even like I'm flipping through my G as we speak. Like, "Ah, I know this answer. But even looking at like, some of the area we're doing, we're doing in G, for example, we're doing area of trapezoids, area of hexagons. In H, we're doing area of polyhedrons. We're talking three-dimensional things, right? We're talking about your my gosh,
Like
my
your
fi-
volume, things like that as
yeah,
well.
your volume and just the full areas of that. And then the surface area, right? The area of just the faces that are on those polyhedrons and how that plays. So you introduced it here in G, and then you've done deeper by applying that all in H. I see Kathleen's on. So did you have something else to add, Kathleen?
Yes, I was just going to say real quick to kind of add to that. As you said, level G is basically teaching the child how to learn, how to teach themselves. So the beginning, I would say third of G is pretty light because we're working on how do I teach myself? How do I learn? How do I become an independent learner? Then it starts to get into heavier stuff. I love H. H is my absolute favorite because H is where you get into trigonometry. Now, I didn't have trig until I was in college, and I thought that was something they developed to torture me. They did a lovely job. When I saw it in level H, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like this. And so H kind of takes all this stuff, as you were saying, takes all the stuff that and it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, I could use it here and I could use it there and I could use it there. And oh, this is so awesome. I love it. So it kind of, to me, puts legs underneath your math and you can really start to run with it in H.
Yeah, I mean, even like bringing up your trig example, right? The way that they're learning about trigonometry is like, oh, Susie went skydiving and she jumped from the plane and she wants to get to her house and it's this far away, right? So they're thinking through the problem. Okay, I have to put the distance to there. Okay, how high, things like that. Or like, how tall is the building? Or how far away does my ladder have to go to be an OSHA, parameters when I'm working at a site, so things like that. How many lessons do we have in G and H? I believe it's like 120, 125. I have them right here though. So I can answer that fairly quickly. It's in the 120s. No,
It's in the 120s.
It's 130 for G.
And 125 for H.
Yeah, I it's close. Okay, there's a long question. Let me look at it. Moved up on me, sorry. I'm not really getting any options to get him through this more quickly and efficiently. Is it totally fine for us to get it done? I mean, I think it depends on what he wants to do, truthfully. That's my short answer. If he's cool with like, hey, I have this job and I'm liking it and this is working for me, then that's okay. He doesn't have to jump right in immediately to those higher maths. If that's working for him and it's working for you, I don't see an absolute need to jump ahead. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to that. This is Doug Moreland's question. Would it be too difficult for a fifth grader that has gone through the entire Right Start curriculum to start level G? No, if they've done the other levels, they can absolutely jump into level G, especially because that beginning third, like we said, is absolutely review because you're learning how to teach yourself. Maybe depending on the kid, they might need a little more hand holding. But really, if they're already getting it, they're through level F, G is the next progression. Okay. Let's see, which algebra did you choose for your children? Okay, so what I chose for my children. So my son decided he wanted to do art of problem solving. And he probably could have, truth be told, but honestly, with me teaching online classes and health things and everything else, I wasn't there to give him the hand holding that he needed. He's got pretty significant ADHD. So we just weren't getting through it. It took us way too long. When he was doing it, he could do it, but I literally had to sit with him. So I did decide to make the switch last year to Mr. D Math. And I've been really happy with it. I was hesitant at first because there was no textbook. To me, you know, I'm like, well, we need a textbook. But it's been going really well for them. We do the self-paced, they watch the video. It encourages them to take notes while they're watching the video and to do the assignment. So I liked that. Has them do some vocabulary here and there. Then they do like a quiz, and then they'll have other assessments further. So for us, that's what's worked. I've only tried those two. But Mr. D's working for us right now. So that's where we are with that. Anything else that I might have missed? Yeah, and all of them are really going to like kind of be a little bit based on the student's personality, I guess, and style. So
Yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions that we missed along the way. If somebody did ask a question that we didn't answer, please just repost it.
we're not in the business of ignoring anybody here.
There is a
I
new
have-
question from
I had a
Evelyn.
quick question.
Yes.
Can you hear
and
me?
then- Go ahead. Is this Evelyn or just someone else?
This is Julie.
Okay, go ahead, Julia. I'll get back to you, Evelyn.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Where is the objective? Is there a list for objectives for each level? I think you said it and I missed it.
Yes, there is. It's in the front of the book, but it's also, I'll go back to the slide.
I'll post it in the chat too.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, but if you go to this resources tab,
Okay,
you can find it over here under sample lessons and teaching support. We'll both have. it.
perfect. All right, thank
And
you.
this is something that we just added. It's so if you've got a book that you purchased, 6 months or longer ago, you don't have it in there. So go to where Allison is saying and you'll be able to find it. And
Oh.
Marin's got the link.
Perfect.
Kathleen, do you mind actually answering Evelyn's question? I'll piggyback anything if I feel the need.
Okay, Evelyn says, my son is on the spectrum. He's 13. He does better with concentrated tutoring programs and regular curriculum. Once we're finished with all the tutoring programs, would he go to G? So Evelyn, if I'm understanding correctly, you're doing like Right Start tutoring, number sense, multiplication 1, multiplication 2, and then fractions.
Yes. So basically my son, he's on the spectrum and he's doing great with your program. We spent 13 years not being able to do math, and then last February started, and he's finally just getting it. But
Good.
doing the whole book for level B, level C, level D, it has a lot of geometry and a lot of other things that it's harder for him. But when we started buying the tutoring program, then that's just going pretty fast and well for him. And so
Yeah.
my concern is then we're not doing all the other stuff that's in the regular program. So
And that's it's a good point. So real quick to kind of backfill, and then I'll answer your question. The tutoring just does, as you said, Evelyn, just number sense, which is addition, subtraction, just multiplication, just fractions. So you're missing some of the interconnectedness that's going on in the curriculum. So that would be a reason to do the curriculum. But in your case specifically, Evelyn, you've got a child who's got some additional gifts and challenges, and he's also 13. We don't have time for him to go back and do second grade work or third grade work and pick up some of those joyful things that are there. He doesn't have time for it. So in your case, given the age of your son, and again, some of the challenges and the gifts that he has, I would do exactly what you're doing. I would go Right Start tutoring, and then I would go into level G. What's missing is decimals and percents. That is the next book we're going to be doing, but that won't be done quite yet. So you could do one of two things. You could go into level F and peel out those lessons and we can help you with it. Or you could start in level G and continue. And then as soon as we get the decimals and percents book done, you're like, okay, I want it. You grab it, stop what you're doing, go do this. Because again, if he likes things compartmentalized, we'll get him the decimals and percents, and then go back to G with wherever it is that you were.
Okay, no, I have time but by the time he's, finished with the program, you'll have the decimals and percents.
The
And I-
decimals and percents, okay, I'm gonna say this out loud, but nobody can come back and go, really, Kathleen, you said so. I'm hoping it will be done I really would like to have it done by this time next year or sooner. I really want it done by this time next year, but I can't pinky swear promise.
A tutoring book
Oh.
for that? Is that what you're talking about?
Pardon me?
A tutoring book for decimals and
Yes. Yes. Yep. I probably will be starting it. It kind of depends upon, I've got conventions starting to come up here and there's things I have to do for them, but usually I seem to start these books sometime in about the early midsummer.
Mhm.
And then we'll see what happens to my life between here and there. So I'm hoping to get it done as soon as possible. I know people want it. I wanted to get it done, but weirdly, there's only 24 hours in a day and 365 days in a year. So I'm working on it.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it's been a godsend for us to finally get to a program where my son can just see things now. And
Oh,
that's
wonderful. Thank you for saying that. That's wonderful to hear.
yeah, and the tutoring side, I'm glad you said that because my biggest worry was, well, if when he gets to G, then he'll be able to absorb all the other things that he's missed
Yeah.
out. Because
And remember
his
that
brain works with geometry and it's almost like that math is so much. I just feel like it's going to be a lot easier for him to see because he builds things than
Yep.
the arithmetic part. So
and that's one of the gifts of, I think you said, yeah, he's on the spectrum. That's one of the gifts of the children that are on the spectrum is they can see things visually as if it's right there in front of them. And
Mhm.
that is a huge talent of theirs. And so, again, not knowing your son in just this tiny conversation, I would progress and put him in G and see how far he goes and see, wait till the other book is done. I would continue with him and put him in G and let him enjoy that. Let him roll around and flourish there.
okay, thank you so much.
You're
Really
welcome.
appreciate it.
I have one more question. I tutor I Start Math online and have my first student moving into G in a few months. Any tips or encouragement about how to utilize my time with the student? I've already taught G and H to my own daughter. Obviously, we don't want to lose the concept of it being them being a teacher, which is also a little bit challenging, when you're doing your online classes. So, I mean, maybe have them submit their work to you or send their work to you somehow, or questions that they need the support with before you meet together. So that way you guys can like just hit the topics that need to be hit. Like even looking at, we had an assignment the other day, and the next assignment was very similar. So like, hey, you know what? How do people feel if we only do this part of it? And everyone's like, oh, I'm good, getting thumbs up on the video because they felt comfortable in that because we've already done it. So I think just, I think it's important to go over vocabulary all the time. I really like to do that. I tell the students, you're reading it, you're writing it down, and now you're hearing me saying it. So we've had 3 different, types of exposure to it to really help cement it. So I think vocabulary is really important, and then some of the newer concepts. I don't know if Kathleen or Martin have any more to add to that. Or anyone else.
Nope, I have
Actually,
nothing to add.
I think that sounds great.
I had one thing to add because I had a student this last year do that. She transitioned from F into G, and it was kind of just a matter of me coming alongside her, maybe meeting with her once a week instead of every day like we had been doing. And gradually over about 4 or 5 weeks, she got to the place where she was not needing my help anymore.
Yeah. And even like how we have the online class set up, we don't do it every day.
Right.
We're hitting it Tuesday, Thursday. Like, yes, they have their own assignments, but yeah, essentially I think that it's cool to watch the growth and the transformation in the students. Be like, hey, you're on your own, little one, obviously with scaffolding there to support them, but really they start to take that ownership and kind of go with it. So thank you. That's helpful, Sharon. Well, if there are no more questions, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Always feel free to reach out to us. We are here to support you. We will not abandon anyone. Reach out. We will help you. No question is silly. We've had them ourselves, so don't worry. Sometimes I call Kathleen for help too. So it's all good.